Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody joining today's call. Indeed, we have participants from all over the time zones here, so really appreciate you all joining. Thank you very much for being on this Datum Solutions webinar for insurance and financial services, which is titled Digital Transformation. Just talk, hype and promises. Let's realize the real business value on your digital journey. Today, we want to bring you more insights on what's currently going on in the insurance and financial services market. It's hard nowadays to turn to a website or a journal and not have digital transformation as a key theme. And while this has been going on for a while, I believe it's time to give you an update on whether it's just all talk or is digital transformation really delivering on its promise. So my name is Frank.Driessen. I'll be your host for today's webinar, and I'm the Director of Datum Solutions in Europe. And we're glad to bring you a few inspirational and laser-focused sessions today. And for that, I'm glad to be joined by several great speakers. We'll kick today's webinar off with an in-depth interview with Shillito. Douglas joins us from Shillito Market Intelligence Organization. And for our UK insurance audience today, you probably know Douglas as he's a chartered insurance practitioner with a long history in insurance. But you may know him better from his renowned market intelligence services, the Insurance Newslink Global Trends Research Database Services. You will find this very valuable research at the following link, www.onlystrategic.com. Douglas is a past Vice President of the Chartered Insurance Institute and served as a judge on the British Insurance Award. Next, we'll be joined by Balsom. Eddie is the Program Manager at FCII, where he was responsible for the delivery of the Insurers Market Repository, also called the IMR, as part of a major digital initiative at Lloyd's of London and the London Market Group. Together with Datum Solutions, Eddie and his team have implemented the IMR, and he will be sharing his experiences on this true digital transformation. At the end, I will walk you through some of the services and solutions that Datum Solutions provide and that were implemented at FCII. And as wrap-up, we'll answer questions that may come from the audience. Please make sure you log any questions through the chat function on the webinar. But in the interest of time, we will answer those at the end of the webinar, so that we make sure our speakers have optimum time with you. But now over to you, Douglas. Douglas, thank you very much for joining. We look forward to hearing your views on the progress of digital transformation in the insurance markets from more of a strategic business perspective.
It's good to be doing this webinar with you. I'll be looking at trends across insurance markets and the potential business impact of the emerging technologies and other key influences, including the changing mindset of the consumer and the rising impact of regulatory controls and cybersecurity breaches. In defining emerging technologies, one of the issues I have as an insurance business analyst is trying to demystify some of the words used by techies. But digitization, or even digitalization, depending on where you're coming from in the world, embraces artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, and blockchain. And I will try and look at how this is impacting our business and, of course, the consumers, the channels, and every aspect from a strategic point of view.
So with that, what do you think are the main game changes that are connected with digitization?
Well, a few years ago, I wrote a major series of white papers for FileNet and then IBM on external pressures, and things have changed considerably since then. Certainly the pressures have changed, and I feel that the internet and growth of mobile and connected technology have been game changers with the public and are having a global impact on all economies. Insurance has not been generally at the forefront in exploiting these, but are now starting to warm up with a considerable push from many insurtechs with new ideas, particularly around the consumer, offering more flexible products and streamlined and simplified processes and speedier claims payment. Other new technologies also enable improved risk management and more precise and flexible underwriting. And I speak as an ex-underwriter. Support groups, including Startup Bootcamp and Lloyd's Lab, just as examples, and there are many more. And the investors for new insurtechs are growing, with major insurers, including Zurich, major reinsurers such as Munich Re, and only last week, Hanover Re, becoming more involved, not just in investment, but in collaboration and trialing applications. In fact, KPMG estimated that UK insurtechs saw over $1 billion of investment in 2018, which was up from under 800 million the previous year.
So if you then look at the initiatives that have been going on in the insurance industry that you're speaking to here, what do you see as the main business objectives that the insurers are trying to achieve here?
Well, the traditional insurance process for personal and commercial business takes too long and it costs too much. So moving to a digital platform is an essential element in being competitive. But a simple switch from existing systems is not an easy task. There is a groundswell of opinion that digital is the future, but insurers and banks are finding it increasingly difficult with their present resource. Internal digital mastery is proven elusive and reducing, according to a recent report from Capgemini. In fact, only 27% of insurers are deemed to be digital masters, while 56% are classified as beginners. So there's some way to go. Social media and such companies as Amazon and Google have led the way, and the consumer is experiencing wider voice and word recognition, and will increasingly demand that the insurance industry speeds up its quotations, its claims, and other processes. Successful insurtechs are leading the way in this area to more flexible products, short-term, on-demand cover, and simpler, speedier processes.
So, and then if you see that the uptake of digital transformation is not really happening as quickly as I think we all want it to be and think it to be, what do you see in what sectors this progression manifests itself?
Well, let's start with one that is perhaps slower than some of the others, blockchain, which quite frankly, in many respects, mystifies insurance business people at this stage. But the applications for blockchain have a big potential. They reckon that in the US they will be leading. It'd be slow to emerge, but there are some activities in the UK, particularly in marine insurance and claims agreement coordination in the London insurance market, and a company called ChainThat have just announced the Bermuda Insurance Exchange, which will transact both traditional reinsurance and insurance-related linked securities known as ILS. And that is interesting because London has got now regulatory agreement to form their own ILS market, which will compete with Bermuda. Meanwhile, the assessment of risk is changing. In motor insurance in particular, and I once was a motor underwriter running Irish business for Royal Insurance, our Royal Sun Alliance, and things have changed a bit since those days. Telematics is here to stay, and a recent LexisNexis Risk Solutions survey indicated that 60% of consumers would accept a telematics rating system based on driving skills. Driverless cars will be with us soon as well, which will cloud responsibilities for insurance between policyholder and car manufacturers and suppliers. And there is a lot of unknown factors within this area. But interestingly, there is an increased variety of offerings, such as underwriting by mileage, And these sort of offerings are emerging because of the new technologies that are becoming available. Underwriting of household insurance could also be transformed by the development of the Internet of Things, known as IoT, moving to more of a loss prevention and mitigation culture. But there are warnings. A recent review by Lloyd's and University College of London said it had the potential to increase complexity and amplify risk. On another personal front, wearables, as they're called, are transmitting medical information, are also emerging in the health and life insurance sectors, with good examples of Aetna in the US and Discovery in South Africa, and indications that it's going to happen in the UK as well. So the outcome of more digitization is a rise in cybersecurity risk. The commercial insurance market, particularly in London, is competing to develop appropriate products, assisted by a growing number of insurtechs in this area. Cybersecurity is also a concern at personal lines consumer level and will be carefully watched by regulators. But increasingly, artificial intelligence is looked upon as a possible technology to assist in assessing this cybersecurity. So watch out for that.
Okay, well, we'll definitely be on the lookout for that. As you know, there's a lot of new technologies coming about that you just explained about and talked about, making their way into the industry. And we know all about the technology and hype cycles. And you know, still a lot of technology has to prove itself. But if you then go back to a little bit of the traditional technologies, you know, where we were going paperless, where we are thinking they have reached a plateau of productivity. So Douglas, can you explain a little bit more on that whole battle of reducing paper from the process? Has that battle been won?
Well, it's quite interesting that, in particular, in the London market, the leaders, and particularly the new chief, Sheila Cameron of the Lloyd's Market Association, are pushing to simplify processes as the world becomes smaller and communication becomes quicker, with the object of digitization. And perhaps the word digitization is suddenly ringing around the corridors of the Lloyd's building at the present time. There's been progress with the take-up of the PPL placing system, and it is now, from a Lloyd's perspective, been made mandatory. But the bigger brokers, which dominate the London market, are very positive, and that use is becoming higher. But there is much to do to eliminate duplication, and the newer technologies will play a major role in enabling the London market to spread its unique knowledge on a competitive basis worldwide. First, most of the paper chase must be streamlined or eliminated. An interesting recent report by Ernst & Young, EY, indicated that UK financial services companies could save up to 1.3 billion annually if 80% of their customers went paperless. The report estimated that 28% of customers at the present time were deemed paperless, mainly in the personal lines area. But the drawbacks to going paperless were, according to the report, legacy systems, new regulation, and customer demand. In other words, we can't take for granted that everybody's going to go digital, particularly in the personal lines area. There will be people still wanting paper to back things up, just like the arguments in the banking sector at the moment about the future of cash.
Yeah, and then of course interesting will be that while the back offices are striving to go paperless and to go through digitization, still about 80% as a number that's been going around for quite a while, and I think it is still something like 80% of all the information passing around is in a unstructured format. talking about PDFs or Word or emails that get sent around. So there is going to be interesting to see what aspects of the business process now actually will be impacted by the digitalization. And what are then those external pressures that you refer to from the regulators?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the external pressures have changed to a degree because the customer and customers' experience, the attitude to mobile technology, and has obviously come to the fore. But also, still there. A few years ago, we were talking about developments such as Solvency II. It's still with us, and they're still tinkering with how it will work out. There's still arguments between the insurers and the regulators, but external pressures from regulators generally are still there, and there are some problems. But if one looks, first of all, at where we are going in terms of the business process, competitiveness, differentiation, and more sophisticated risk analysis and underwriting are at the core of the insurance industry's future, all enabling by differentiating with emerging technologies, which will disrupt the whole process. And this is key here, the whole process: marketing, sales, inquiry and quote, to underwriting, renewal and administration. And just to amplify that, in my series of white papers a few years ago, I coined the word front office. We had a back office and a front office, and the front office was everybody that wasn't in the back office. In other words, the branch offices, the salespeople, the brokers, and the consumers. And what we're seeing is really that the front office and the back office are coming together through digitization. So that's moved tremendously in the last few years. But there are also other factors like the growth in predictive analytics and the emergence of parametrics in commercial insurance. Swiss Re are leading on this, and it's very interesting because it means that you could have an adjustment during between renewal for the assessment of risk change, whether it's for the better or for the worse. And say Swiss Re have got a very interesting experiment going on there, which I will be watching with great interest, and many others are. It will shift this scenario to loss prevention and mitigation, with wider insurance industry collaboration with governments and outside bodies to reduce the economic uninsured loss levels worldwide caused through natural and man-made disasters. Meanwhile, there's been a quantum leap in more sophisticated risk exposure assessment, with developments such as satellite and drone technology greatly assisting in loss assessment during the recent climate catastrophes, particularly in the US. In fact, the processing of claims, always a key factor for the consumer and business owner, will be transformed by the introduction of new technologies. And significant inroads are already being made in this area. Digitization through artificial insurance and machine learning is creating a large increase in underwriting and claims information, which needs to be assimilated by the technical management with the assistance of supporting systems. Several of the leading insurance application software suppliers are now offering software as a service over the cloud, with digitization to the fore in their marketing and sales approach. Also, expect an improvement in insurer analytics, aiding better, quicker, and widespread decision-making. But as ever, regulators will be on watch to see how it is used, particularly in personal lines. The European Union have been particularly tough with such legislation being introduced, such as GDPR. It's keeping a watchful eye on innovations such as telematics and artificial intelligence. In the UK, there have been several investigations by regulators around areas such as pricing and clarity of information in personal lines, and a review of how London market brokers operate has just been completed.
And I'll speak to your remark that the EU have been particularly tough, and I think that goes to saying it's not only be on GDPR, but I think there's more current and pressing discussions happening between the UK and the EU that are particularly tough. But that's a different topic that we'll not go into right now. So it's great to understand where the technology is heading, where the differentiation will come from, what the options are that insurers and insurtech are striving for. But it'll be interesting to get your views and your take on what the key will be to a sustainable differentiation that any market player could achieve in the market.
Well, as to the future, creative insurtechs are emerging across the globe. They're coming from everywhere. It wasn't so long ago that Asia Pac was way behind and they wanted to know what was happening in the West. But now China and other Asia Pac countries are coming up with creative solutions. And the developing countries are catching up quicker because of initiatives such as microinsurance and growth in mobile connectivity and the internet. So also the number of mergers and acquisitions is rising, and the future will belong to those insurers and reinsurers and intermediaries that fully and quickly embrace these emerging technologies, which, as I said earlier, are going to affect the whole of insurance and reinsurance operations. The key question for market players then is, have they got the appropriate level of knowledge and skills in-house or access to it externally? And to shift their data, information, analytics and channels to customer-centric and achieve and maintain speedier, less costly and more flexible processing, moving from their existing systems to digital to enable them to differentiate in changing markets. That was the theme, differentiating changing markets, for my set of white papers previously, and it doesn't change. This is the challenge for all these people, and suddenly we have got a whole range of the new technologies which are going to completely change the way that we work and the way that we interface with our client base.
Great, Douglas. Really appreciate your insightful comments on both on the market side as well as on the technology side and what's going on in the market. It's great to see that you were able to help us position and help us understand the drive towards digital transformation, and what and how new technology is making its way in, but also highlighting that that I think we must learn to walk before we can run. You really cannot skip important steps in going to digital through digitization before you will be able to go do analytics and to go do machine learning or artificial intelligence. All of that really seems to start, and I tend to agree with that, seems to start with digitization of information being pushed around between clients and insurance and through the value chain, and moving that information around. And only then it will help us to fuel a next phase of revolution, or maybe we should actually say it's more of an evolution. So once more, thank you very much for your insights here. I really appreciate it. Both for myself, it's been highly learning, and I really hope that also our audience on the call now has enjoyed getting your market research and intelligence on these topics. So for people on the telephone here, if you want to learn more, and I think Douglas mentioned a few of the research papers that he has written, I do want to call out his website for you to visit. Is www.onlystrategic.com, and you will be able to find much more information there. So with that, I'm not sure, Douglas, maybe you want to make any closing comment from your side?
I don't think so, really. I mean, that gives you a wide picture. It's a very high level that I've been talking. It's very much, shall I say, a summary. What I've noticed in the brief time that I've been putting this together in the last 2 or 3 weeks has been an enormous amount of new research coming through. Almost every day there is something new in this area, and it will continue to increase. Even though there are distractions in the press from things like Brexit, the fact is that there is a lot of actual surveying and opinions going on, and it is quite a challenge just to keep up with this area alone. But it's so all embracing that it is fascinating to see how it's evolving.
Yeah, great. So even more information in its unstructured format coming about. So once more, thank you very much, Douglas. Really appreciate your insights. And with that, let's now turn to Eddie Balsom. Eddie was leading the digital program on the IMR at Exchanging for the London market, and with whom Datum Solutions worked in lockstep to deliver on this project. Hey, Eddie, thank you very much for joining us today. And while you do the introduction, please tell us a little bit more about yourselves and the company you work for, and what its role is in the London insurance market. Especially for our non-UK audience, it will be good to better understand the insurance playing field here.
Hi, thanks, Frank. I'm Eddie Balsom. I've been working for Exchanging, which is now part of DXC, for many years. I have a long experience in the London insurance market. As you said, I was the program manager responsible for the delivery of the IMR work streams, including the new IMR application and all of the migration of data from the legacy platforms onto the IBM FileNet platform.
So, and for the audience here, maybe you can explain what IMR actually stands for.
Of course, Insurers Market Repository. So it is what it says. It's the market repository used by the London insurance market, which includes Lloyd's of London. And it is a collaborative tool and workspace where brokers, carriers of the insurance companies, and experts can access the information on a risk basis, where documentation is held and everything has its own access control list. So security is king here to ensure that only the right people see the right documentation.
Yeah, wonderful. So where Douglas was talking from a market experience or a market analysis, now we really have an expert on the line here going into digitization and digital collaboration across the insurance value chain. So that's really great. So Eddie, maybe you can walk us through a little of some of the highlights of the London market program and what Exchanging was embarking on. And then zoom in on, what the insurance market repository meant to that program.
Okay, so a couple of facts, if that's okay. The IMR is, we believe, the largest insurance-based repository in the world. And to provide some context around that, it provides collective secure access to over 83 million documents, including 20 million claim transactions and just shy of 6 million work packages. And there's currently over 13,000 active users that are using the IMR. And it provides secure collective access to all of the risks written in the London insurance market.
So wow, so that's really a massive system, a massive undertaking that you've been going on here.
Those users are spread across hundreds of different organizations as well. And as I said earlier, and I'll probably say it again later, security is key to this. It's essential that only the right people get access to the right documentation. Obviously, you only get to see the risks that you're either the broker of or that you are an insurer of. And even within those risks, there is still security at play that makes sure that you only get to see the documentation that you should be able to access.
No, fully understand. You only get to see what you're allowed to see. I think you'll be speaking to that part a little bit further down when we talk about the project. And maybe you can explain a little, where you mentioned it's a re-platforming of an existing system that you have moving into a new set of technology.
Yes, so IMR's been around since the early part of this century and was on a now non-supported platform. So the program that we delivered was all around moving from this unsupported platform and onto the IBM FileNet product. So, and it was key for the London market. But what I failed to mention earlier was it's also a key tool for DXC, our internal technicians. We provide processing to the London insurance market for premium and claims, and we use the IMR to access that documentation and to store documentation where we've carried out processing procedures for the London market.
Very interesting. So when you were looking at replacing that non-supported technology, what were for you the most important aspects that you were looking at for the new IMR?
We wanted something that was scalable and would provide resilient service to the market. It's a key part of the DXC exchanging service that we have the IMR, and that the users can trust it. So having a supplier that is a known brand was key to this. Having a product that was scalable was key to this.
Okay, so and that is what you mentioned. You found with IBM FileNet.
Yes, we wanted something, as I say, that was resilient, but also the infrastructure that we were using with the out of support product was also end of life. So we were also moving onto new infrastructure as well as a new product.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, and then so following from your analysis on what was like key and most important to your new technology. What did make IBM and Datum Solutions stand out, and why you ultimately selected both IBM and Datum Solutions?
With the old product that we'd used for the IMR, we'd carried out a number of customizations. So in our new product selection, it was important that we could recreate these customizations, but this time, of course, on a modern platform. And with the extensions that we were carrying out, we wanted those to be easy to maintain. And obviously, as we go through product upgrades, it was important that each time we needed to do an upgrade or even a service patch, that these were easy to carry out. And of course, on our old product, that's something that we were having increasing difficulties carrying out because it was no longer supported.
Mm-hmm.
So the choice of IBM FileNet and Datum, who were able to show that they could provide this service to us, was key.
Yeah, and I think maybe there's something you can expand on. You actually went through quite an extensive and detailed POC.
Yes, so we did, and it was to prove that, one, that the IBM FileNet product was able to provide everything we needed, but also during that POC we carried out some customizations to show how that was going to work as well. And
okay.
We also brought in a new directory service as well at this point, which we were able to then prove during the POC as well.
Yeah, because with that directory service, and I think you alluded to it, there is quite a complex security model that you have underpinning the IMR.
Absolutely, and as I've said a number of times already, security is absolutely key. So it was important that during the POC we were able to prove that level of customization in the security was able to be recreated in IBM FileNet, which the POC proved.
Yeah, oh, great. And by the way, and myself, coming from a history, we continue calling it IBM FileNet, and nowadays IBM will call it IBM Digital Business Automation. So for our audience here, we currently use IBM and DBA and IBM FileNet interchangeably. Want to make sure to get that point across. So after you've done you did the POC, and the selection was made going into the project. This was actually quite a huge and complex digital transformation program. So maybe you can expand on what kind of were the biggest challenges that you faced, and best practices maybe for the audience how to overcome these.
The migration of the existing data across from the old product onto FileNet, IBM FileNet was a key element of that. But another problem we occurred with that is we didn't have the ability to run the new data into old and new at the same time. So our go live strategy had to be planned in advance with some downtime for our production service, so that we could shut down the service at a given time, carry out our last migration of data, and then restart the service. So that was one of the key elements. Another one, of course, was, as we previously mentioned, was to make sure that we were able to get all of the customization in there as well.
Okay, and maybe from the experience here, what helped you to overcome those challenges?
Datum had carried out a number of previous migrations. Some were from IBM FileNet to IBM FileNet, others were from other products onto IBM FileNet. So they had a migration tool which, with some changes to, was able to work for our migration, which was over 83 million documents, but lots of other items within there, and each of those items had its own security, and each document has its own access control list. So the numbers for migration were very large, but we needed to do it in chunks of data as well. So, and of course, during the production time, that whilst we were carrying out this migration, some of that data would be added to, even though we'd already migrated it across onto the FileNet stack as well. So the tool for migration had to be able to deal with all of those elements, plus that last run where we'd stopped and we were no longer adding to our production system on the old technology, so we could then run that final migration of data ready for the go live.
Mm-hmm. So it really was like keeping the lights on, keeping the shop open while you do the migration in the back end.
Yes.
Expanding on, I'm sorry.
Sorry, on that, Frank, is obviously just throughout that migration period, we had to make sure that there was lots and lots of testing going on to make sure that all of the data, all of the security, all of the event history that went was accurate, both from the initial migration and then any upgrades that had occurred to those elements during a further migration.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I can understand. So overall, your experience working with Datum Solutions, how would you describe that?
Very, very good. The whole of the program took quite a long time, and during that time, the relationship built with Datum as an organization, but also the individuals, was very good, and we were more like a team rather than one organization working with another. It was one big team, and can't thank Datum enough for that. It made life much easier than it could have been.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. So now that the IMR, or the new IMR, is live, what do you think are the biggest benefits that this will bring, both to the market as well as to the end client?
The market now knows that the IMR is on a modern supported platform from a recognized brand. It means that keeping it up to date for both service patches and any new versions is relatively easy. It means that guys that in the market that are using the IMR no longer have to keep older versions of browsers up and in use, which they were having to do for our previous product. So it's made a huge difference to not just the users, but the desktop support teams for those users as well.
Yeah, so it had a really big impact on different parts of the organization.
Yeah, and it's moved guys away from just being at a desktop as well, because it's working on tablets as well, and phones as well, if that's what the requirement is, whereas the old product was stuck and was purely a desktop use only. What I was going to say is, and as the market asks us to provide different services or make changes to the existing services, quite often those will involve changes to the IMR. So having it on the new platform means that changes are much, much easier to bring in.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I made a comment that we need to learn how to walk before we can run. And I think that's what the new technology now has given you. You knew how to walk with the IMR at its original capacity and capability. But now with the new version of it, you are able to expand faster and further into more digital transformations happening in the market. And on that, maybe you can expand a little on what was the customer experience. So, how are the clients dealing with the changes?
Happier, much happier. I mean, one of the things was, whilst this was a DXC piece of work to get the IMR onto the IBM FileNet platform, the market had the final say over whether we could go live or not. So there was lots and lots of market testing to make sure that the migration had occurred correctly, but more importantly, that the functionality, or I should say, as importantly, the functionality that our users have in the IMR was working as expected. So it was key that we had market sign off for the go live as well. So the market signed it off, the market are happier, their user experience is an improvement. The speed that the screens are displayed is a vast improvement. The interactions between all of the other services via the service bus has vastly improved. So we have SLAs with the market, service level agreements with the market for the IMR. And those are much easier for DXC exchanging to meet now that we are on the IBM FileNet platform.
Okay, so interesting here is, and also for the audience, is implementing new technology for a user base and running a change management program to get new technology accepted. For you, that this actually had a whole different and bigger, more complex dimension. Because what you mentioned, it was actually all the participants in the London market had to sign off and had to accept going forward on the new platform.
Well, bodies of the London market. I think we'd still be waiting if we got each one to sign. But yes.
So, diving a little bit in, what do you think was the biggest success during the project? Or what would you kind of single out as,
that's
milestone?
So difficult to answer because the whole, from end to end, the biggest success was that we went live and it stayed up and was okay. To be honest with you, we didn't lose any documentation in the migration. We didn't fail to recreate any of the functionality. So.
And that whole go live was just, while it was a massive undertaking that happened over, I don't know, maybe you can just expand a little on the timelines, but the actual switch over to go live to the new system was just over a weekend, right?
If your weekends last 4 days, yes.
Well, there you go. Well, enjoying a long weekend then.
So because of all of the activities over the migration, including the migration and the go live, it was a 4 day. So we shut, after seeking permission from the market, the London insurance market, we shut the IMR down and all of our services on the Thursday evening. And then immediately that we couldn't add any new data to the IMR, the final migration of data occurred. And then we started to make changes to our service bus so that instead of pointing at the old IMR, the services were now pointing to the new IMR. We then had to run some test data through to make sure that everything was working properly. And we were halfway through the Monday, we'd completed all of the tasks. So we were ready to come back up for the live service in the early hours of the Tuesday morning, because whilst it's the London insurance market, it's a worldwide service because many of our customers have offices all over the world and they are using the IMR. So when their working day starts, the IMR is there anyway. So it's not a 9 to 5, it's a 24/7.
Oh wow, that's good to know. That's good to know. Now that the IMR is up and live, and we spoke a little about the challenges and the benefits that it brought, are there any additional benefits that you would like to expand on? I don't know if there maybe even financial benefits that you now reap from the new IMR.
I think something I've previously mentioned was that we have SLAs, so making sure that we meet our SLAs. If they're not met, then there are financial penalties. So the fact that it's easier for us to do so now that we're on the IBM FileNet platform, that's certainly one of those things. But I think it's also just down to when we need to make changes to it, it's going to be much easier for us to implement those.
Okay, so all in all, if you look back at the project that was undertaken and the complexity, it's been a gigantic operation, and you know, not really looking for an accolade here, but maybe yes, because ultimately, you know, Datum Solutions is running the webinar here. You know, maybe a short accolade that you would want to give to Datum around running the project together.
Only that it was a success and that Datum were key to that success. I don't think we want to go back and change anything. I think we learned a lot of lessons from doing it, and if we were working on another one immediately afterwards, it would have been a lot easier from what we learned throughout it. But nothing that we would change.
And from those learnings that came across, maybe you can share a few or the key learnings with the audience here.
All about the planning. It's all about making sure that you have the right resources, both in a hardware, software, also human capacity as well, but making sure that you've got the right partners with you as well, because it's the combination of all those things that enabled us to get through and get the IMR replatformed onto the FileNet product. The other important element for us was that not only did we have our partnership with Datum, but we have our partnership with our customers, which is the London insurance market. And as I said earlier, that they were providing the sign-off for this. So we had to ensure that we kept the market informed how each element was going. So the migration and also the recreation of the functionality. We shared the go live plan with those guys, and we had to get them to sign off on that because we were taking down a lot of the London insurance market's ability to work for 2 additional days. So that went right to the very top to get that downtime approval. So it's ensuring that your customers are aware of what you're doing and sharing all of the details with them to make sure that they make the journey with you.
Yeah, okay, so really having that level of transparency and everybody knowing what's going on.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so great. Thank you very much, Eddie, and appreciate you sharing your views and insights into this, you know, really gigantic project that was run, and where it provides a large service to the London market, to the London insurance market. I will speak from our side that we absolutely certainly love working with yourselves and with your team. It was a great experience. Blood, sweat, and tears. It was hard work, but I know it's been fun work as well. And things, unforeseen things always happen. But as a team, and you continue to work together and communicate around these, you will make it a success. And I think it's safe to say that the whole project, including go live, was a grand success. Very much down and appreciate the efforts of yourselves and the team there. So appreciate you sharing the views here, and really looking forward for the future to see what next will be on the London market and the exchanging digital journey. More than happy to continue working with yourselves there. So much appreciated for sharing the insights during this webinar.
Thank you, Frank. We really are looking forward to working with Datum in the future. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. So with that, we wrap up both the market insights overview and learning from Eddie around a true customer experience. And I'll wrap this up with a few statements about Datum so that you know who Datum Solutions is and what you can expect from us. Datum Solutions is a long-standing solution provider to the insurance industry. With our senior leadership having deep experience in the insurance industry, since 2010 we've been very active to provide solutions that help our clients to enhance their service levels, solutions that help to improve combined ratio and continue to keep our clients at the forefront of innovation. We are a global company operating on all continents with close to 300 professionals that are driving and delivering both strategic business outcomes as well as technology innovations. Our head office is in Indianapolis, USA, and in the UK, our offices is in the south of London. From all our worldwide locations, we serve clients both on a global and a local scale. And as you've heard today, Datum Solutions was instrumental to the success of the digital transformation project at Exchanging. This was the same team that has been working very closely with Zurich Financial Services across the globe, being supported by our global team. And to name a few other clients, Anthem and multiple US-based Blue Cross Blue Shield companies are some of our healthcare insurance clients. And Nomura and Deutsche Bank are some of our banking customers, and all being long-standing clients. In the era of digital transformation, we think it's critically important to have your foundations laid out well. If you want to digitally engage with your clients, be they consumers or brokers, but also if you want to engage with your employees or suppliers, it starts with digitization of your operation. You will want to take time-consuming physical paper out of the process to the extent possible. And for those of you who were front-runners of digitization in the early 2000s, and maybe even before, your legacy digital archives need to be opened up into modern and cloud-based solutions. Or if not, they probably need a technical refresh, as was the case at Exchanging, to prepare them for a future and further digital journey. Together with IBM's digital business automation platform and IBM DataCap, at Exchanging the system is hosting over 80 million claim documents and ingesting over 5,000 documents an hour. Datum's customer portal integrates and greatly enhances IBM's user experience product called IBM Content Navigator. This allows clients to use the out-of-the-box capability as much as possible and be able to easily tailor and configure the user experience to meet user demand and even user desire. With our own rapid device technology, we have helped Exchanging to diligently test and execute the migration of the legacy information. You heard Eddie talk about the risks involved and making sure claim files were not landing on the wrong side of the fence. With Rapid Device, we were able to migrate the existing claim files to the new platform in a matter of, what did you call it, Eddie? A really long weekend?
Rapid Device is part of Datum's Rapid Suite Content Services platform. It can augment your existing ECM system, such as IBM's FileNet, or it can add to your BPM system of choice, such as IBM Business Process Manager or IBM Case Manager, which nowadays are combined into IBM Business Automation Workflow. It can also integrate with your core insurance applications, such as Guidewire or Duck Creek, to name a few. And lastly, if you're new to the game, Rapid Suite can also run standalone. It is fully cloud-based, highly secure, and helps you to shorten your time to value by easily attaching to your existing application landscape. For example, through the use of Rapid Cognitive, which runs standalone or on top of your existing capture solution, such as, for example, IBM's DataCap, we provide unprecedented accuracy of categorizing incoming documents so they immediately find their way into the right processes without getting lost or stuck on somebody's desk for review and triage. Also, Rapid Cognitive lifts valuable information flawlessly from such documents. It cross-references, it applies AI, and it validates the information on the documents, so that this information can be loaded error-free and automatically into your core claim and policy system. Or for that matter, it can go into any other application where the information is needed. Rapid Cognitive handles the most complex documents and forms, where even human error is often the biggest flaw on data entry. And it doesn't matter if the information comes through mail, email, mobile phone, or any other messaging system. And especially when troublesome handwriting is involved, Rapid Cognitive will rise to the challenge. We even dare you to reach out to us with some of your most valuable, but also most time-consuming and complex documents, so that we can demonstrate the power and ease of use of Rapid Cognitive. In addition, our insurance accelerators for both health, commercial, as well as P&C claims processing and policy administration are part of Rapid Suite. With these insurance accelerators, you can enhance and digitize your industry standard and core insurance systems. They are easy to implement, they are low maintenance, and they will help you to become more cost efficient and customer friendly. The accelerators are apt for agile business control and changes to your processes and systems, while greatly reducing your operating cost and administrative cost, also including development and testing costs and back-end data center operations. We are more than happy to engage with you on a next level conversation, sharing our successes and how we can align to your strategy and objectives. Where do you want to be tomorrow? And what future are you dreaming of? There are many other questions, and we've taken your names and questions and will reach out to you individually to respond to your question. I do apologize, we can't answer them all, as I'm also cognizant to the fact that you're all having very busy day-to-day jobs. So we try and stick to the time that you have so graciously taken out of your hectic day. We really appreciate you joining today, and thank you very much for your interest. I'm sure today's webinar gave you food for thought, and I'm pleased to have been joined by our expert speakers of today, Douglas Shillito and Eddie Balsom. Thank you guys once more. They have shared with you a market view and a client success on digital transformation. At Datum, we look forward to engage with you on such similar paths of success. Feel free to reach out and remember to keep dreaming a little as well. My name is Frank.Driessen, and with this we will end the webinar. And I thank you all and wish you a nice day.